Hey everybody, Roger and I have been looking at having a go at playing a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, and as part of it we want to have some miniatures to represent our characters during battles and things like that. And we found a website called Hero Forge that allows you to make custom characters and then have them 3D printed, so you have a completely unique miniature. And there's like a million different options for these things. It looks like loads of fun because I've spied Roger playing around with it in between edits, between filming and things. And well, he's already made his character and I've not made mine yet, but we thought that you guys might like to see the process of it. So that's what we're going to go and do. So come and join us at the computer. We're going to make a character, and then when it arrives, we're going to paint it as well. All right, so here we are. This is Roger's character. He's already put together. Who's this, Roger?
This is Rigor Hammer, the drunken dwarf, who is on his internal quest to find the perfect ale.
Okay.
And smoke cigars.
I see. He looks like quite a quirky fellow. Look at the little jaunty brow he's got just there. He looks very inquisitive.
The Rock, right?
Is that, yes. Dwayne Johnson, what a guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, fantastic. Okay.
And he's got a kilt.
He has got a kilt. He has got a kilt. He looks like he's a dashing adventurer. I like the cloak. Look at that. It's got a nice little bit of fur on there as well.
It would be fun to paint, I think. So,
yeah.
So let's build your character.
Oh, yes. Wait. Okay. Right. So how do we start new?
Okay, so if you go there, and then you go new.
There we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
And you click species, so you can choose what you want to be.
Species. All right. Okay, so I'm going to be making a character who I've actually had for quite a while playing Dungeons & Dragons. Just going to bring him into our game.
Sweet.
This is Quintus Maximilian.
Of course.
Yeah,
Roman.
Well, in the world it was in, everyone had sort of like Romanish kind of names, and he started out life as a ranger when he was younger, but fighting lots of undead kind of made him go on the path of being totally against that sort of thing. So he sort of shifted into a paladin. So actually, back then the games master sort of customized the character, but that's kind of what I want to go for here. So he's human male. So this looks fine to me. Going with this, there he is as a basic, and right. I suppose I'm going to start out actually looking at kind of like his main body is what I want to start with. And as part of the old stories, what he had was as a gift he got some elven armor.
Cool.
I kind of want. So this is like pre-made. Okay, this is pre-made outfits. Okay, so and it looks like you can customize all the individual bits. So what we're looking for is some sort of elven armor, which elvish light armor, elvish heavy armor. That's pretty cool.
He was a ranger.
He was a ranger, so perhaps the light armor, but then I quite like the shape of the breastplate on that one. I'm gonna go with the heavy armor to begin. Wow, it's very heavy. Actually, let's have a look at the light armor by comparison. It's much lighter, isn't it? I think I like the heavy armor's breastplate a bit more, being full plate around there. But let's see if we can customize this. Okay, so first of all, let's go through the body first of all. Let's look at shoulders. Right, it's got
lots of pauldrons.
There is quite a lot of pauldrons on there, isn't there? Leather, fur, ornate, like the sound of that. Ram skull,
of course. Who doesn't like a ram skull?
Well, I think the shoulders make it look quite heavy, don't they? So I think I'm going to go. I think I'm actually going to remove them. I'm just going to go with those lighter plates.
It's got a little shoulder pauldron kind of thing there.
Yeah, quite like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So the chest, I want to keep that chest plate, I think.
Yeah.
This sort of armoured skirt we got down here, though, I think I'd like to change that. And they've got some new stuff. There we go.
Oh,
wow, that's the summer outfit.
Put on some hot pants. Pants.
Oh, that's my athletics. There we go.
It's yoga time.
He's out for a run. Oh man! Oh, there's so many.
Jeez,
there's so many. Oh, you got
Roman
warrior skirt. Oh, there we go. Is it Roman? You say?
No, warrior skirt. Looks Roman.
There's that's the elven light.
Yeah. Maybe you just want some kind of like adventurous trousers.
I think so. Well,
there we go.
That was well, the odds of that. All right. So here we go. So
that's quite good.
Lower part of the surcoat adds some pizzazz. Oh, I like this. Okay, so it's kind of like it's got a longer bit of fabric that goes under the chest and carries on as a skirt around there. I quite like that. It's sort of like a trail, like a long coat. Yeah. And it's got the kind of just lightly armoured legs. That's good. I think
maybe the boots need changing.
Yeah, maybe. I think you're right.
Lace and buckle. That's quite cool.
I like that. That's really cool because it's almost like it's like a human bit, but they're like elven bits.
Yeah.
I like that. I think the gloves need a similar treatment. Cloth wrapped gloves.
I like those. Those are quite cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I like them.
What are those? Hide braces could be quite. He's a ranger, so hide braces could be quite cool.
He is. So that's kind of like thicker leather. Thief's leather.
That's quite nice.
Wow. I think you just have
so
braces.
much, dude.
There is. This is. I find it.
Oh my
amazing
God!
That you can do this. Like this is you can have whatever you want. What have we got here? Electric Priest. Oh, there we go. For punching people with lightning when just punching isn't enough. There's so many.
Face to face. Yeah.
There's so many. I think I quite like this new. I like this cloth wrap.
I like it. That's quite cool.
It makes me think of the elves in Lord of the Rings. At the start.
Yes,
of Lord of the Rings.
yeah.
It makes me think of that sort of like color, and I always envision this as being sort of goldish kind of armor. So it kind of fits. With that
that's
aesthetic. Cool. I like that. That's good. All right. Okay. I want to change the helmet though. I think because that helmet looks a little bit too big for what's going on now. So let's take a look.
Oh wow! There's a Greek one.
This one, a barbed visor helmet.
Oh, that Greek one's good. You had.
That's quite heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That one looks lighter. Yeah, I like that.
That's quite nice.
I like that. It's got a bit of that sort of slightly Lord of the Ringsy vibe for the elves.
Yeah, it does.
I like that.
It'd be fun to paint the plume as well.
It would be fun to paint the plume. Yeah, I could see all that being green and the fabric being deep greens and things. And assault armor helmet. Wow, so you can do all sci-fi as well. That's brilliant.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Oh, this is a dwarven helmet. Like yeah.
That looks like a Gundam, doesn't it? Anyway, right. So, okay, gear. Now, because the head's fully enclosed now, I think I might change the expression, but I don't think I want to worry about the hair on it. We got all sorts of weapons. All right. Modern. Give him a gun. I want a sword. Okay, so his weapon was a hand and a half sword, or a bastard sword, it's also called. And it's called that because it could be used one-handed or two-handed, and it was like part of the story. It was a feat of learning how to use this, so you could use it one or two-handed. And there we go, a bastard sword. That's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I want him holding it in two hands, though. So I imagine you can do that with pose, right?
Yeah.
So,
there we go. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you could be doing a kick,
Karate Kid,
or
a bard.
A cowardly stance.
Yeah, that's about right.
No, it can't be cowardly.
Charge everything.
I want
advancing it. Oh, that's nice.
I like that. Yeah,
this is coming together. Yeah.
I like that. That's really cool. Okay, all right. So,
what other poses have I got? Let's have a quick look.
Okay.
Maybe there's something else that jumps out.
Let's see. English archer. Angel.
Oh wow.
Oh. This is amazing.
That's quite a good one.
That is a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
They can have a shield.
That'd be cool if you had a shield on there, wouldn't it? It's just a good sort of like advancing kind of pose, though.
I like that one.
Without the shield, I like
yeah.
that. Yeah, that's cool.
That's a nice one. I prefer that one, actually, to be honest.
I prefer that one. It's either that or it's that. So it's quite similar. It's sword in one hand or two hands.
I think the one hand, because his chest area is more open, so it'll be
more of an open pose.
Yeah, you can see more of the miniature that way.
Easier to paint that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Stick a cloak on him, dude. He's gonna look really good.
Yeah, he needs a cloak, doesn't he? All right, so here we go. So gear back. Here we go. Here's some cloaks. All right, Traveller's Cape. That was pretty cool.
That's quite cool.
That's cool, swooshing out there like that.
Now he was a ranger. What if he had a little bit of it was a little bit worn, like a tattered, maybe? Is that too much?
It's quite
probably too much. Yeah. What about the fur?
The fur. Where's the fur? Furry cloak. Winter is here.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? Quite the fur
around
the shoulders. He knows nothing. I quite like that fur around the shoulder. I think it's quite cool. Yeah. That or without. I think without is a bit more elvish, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. Okay, cool. Right. So
what else do you need on him?
Hands. I wonder. You just have.
This
is what's in his hands.
Yes, you need something like some pouches on his belt or something. So,
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. So side. That must be side. Here we go. Right. He's characters that I play in roleplay games are habitually keeping journals. So he's got a book. So I think a book at his side would be a good idea.
You need any magic potion or anything? Healing potions and stuff?
I think some pouches just generally would be good. I suppose we have a scabbard. It's a bit short for a sword, unfortunately. Yeah. So I suppose he puts that sword in his back, really. Oh, could have a gun.
6 shooters, yeah.
Medical pouch. Zip. Those are a bit too modern. So I think it's going to be one of these ones up here.
I think that one's good.
Leather
belt buckle.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
That's cool.
That's good. He's got his journal. There we go.
Awesome.
Okay.
What else?
So
facial expression.
Facial expression.
Go to head, I think.
The head. Face. Oh yes, here we go.
go.
So these are different sorts of head. Oh wow, robot, a zombie.
All right.
Is that a vulpine?
Vulpine.
A fox. Wow, there's all sorts. Well, okay. So, all right. So these are detail. I wonder.
You can't see much on there.
Brows. No, you can't really.
Did he have a beard?
No, he didn't. No, he's quite a young character.
You can't see
I
ears.
think maybe under pose. I wonder if this has got anything about faces.
No.
Face.
Oh, there we go.
Face. Here we are. Right. Oh.
Let's have a look.
Ta-da!
That's quite good, actually.
All of it's hidden away, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, snarling.
Snarling.
I think sort of like stern is what I want him to look like. So
I think blank. I mean, depends how much of a snarl you want to put on.
snarl.
Is that in his mouth? Oh, there's. Do you Ani?
Good job.
I'm not trying it.
I think I'll do the job.
I think
it's
so.
all right.
Yeah, I
it's
think
all
plain is fine.
right. Okay, right.
Base.
Yes, a base.
Ooh.
All right. Oh,
Banners.
GM screen banner. He's on a banner.
Oh, it's to hang over the GM screen. Oh, that's pretty
Master
cool.
screen. That's a great idea.
Ah,
I
okay.
have them different shapes. Okay. Well, I think Dungeons and Dragons, right? So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
want,
dungeons.
a flagstone base. I think that's
Yeah, that'll do.
probably a good
Yeah.
thing to go for. That's looking pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's looking good and heroic.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, and
Perfect companion for Regal.
Okay, this thing on. Let's have a quick look around here. Extras. Give him a turtle shell. Give him a tail.
Hero and a half shell.
Some wings, yeah. Measure. Oh, okay. Oh, height. He's currently 5'7". He could be
A giant.
11 foot tall.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I mean, you're quite a tall
he's-
guy. Won't it? Make yourself 6'2".
Yeah, I can't remember what the height. I think it's like about 5 foot. Make about 6 foot. There we go. That'll do. That'll do. His head, make him giant head.
It's chibi.
Yeah. So look at posture. Oh, okay. So either hunch or more upright. I think I want to move it more upright.
Yeah.
There we go.
Try it straight on with the hunch
Was it up?
posture. Like he's leaning in a bit more there.
That's quite cool. He's like sort of sweeping in, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think I want it a bit more upright, so I think it's going to be a bit more,
Yeah, I think it's quite cool.
bit more like that.
What about the build? What about his
Sort of
build?
heroic posture. Let's have a look. What does this do?
Muscles.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Look at that.
Wow.
Looks like he. Looks like He-Man or something, doesn't he? I think that's fine. I think that's all
What's
right.
further
What else
down?
we got down here?
Upper scale,
Upper
arm
scale?
length.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, there we go. Let's just keep it on that normal arm length. Muscularity. Oh,
Wow.
working out. We got the bust, waist, belly,
Yeah.
arms, booty.
Booty. That's not treasure, right?
I don't think so. I don't think that's what they're getting
Treasure for some, but
yeah, he could have all of that, but he's not got all of that.
Yeah.
All right, I think
just for fun, try a mount.
try a
You
look.
like
Try a look. Mount. Oh yeah. Oh, mighty horse. Let's have a look. Oh, look at that. Heroically galloping along. Do-do-do-do. That's pretty cool. Awkward in a dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What about a motorbike?
That's Fallout, isn't it?
That's right.
Fallout New Republic. New California Republic NCR, isn't
How
it?
to deal with the traffic. Have a long sword. All right. I think he's gonna keep him on foot.
Go
I
horseless.
quite like that. I quite like that.
Mountless.
And yeah, I think that's cool.
Superb, yeah.
Cool. I'm just taking a look at advanced. Oh crikey.
Twist.
Oh,
That's
so
a
you can.
sword.
All right. We're gonna keep that in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it's in the middle. 1, 0. There we go.
You press it reversed, I bet it puts it like
You
he's...
can. Oh, wrist. Oh wow.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, you can change the hand. Oh wow. That's amazing. Beg. Please don't kill me.
No, it looks like he's going to backhand someone.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
No, that's
suppose it should be a
fist. What's further down?
Let's have a look. Lots of other wave. Shadow tuck.
Knuckle punch.
Knuckle punch. Relaxed. Open palm.
That's not bad. I think the fist is the fist is the better one.
Yeah, I think so. I think having his fist clenched is the way to go, isn't
Down.
it? Yeah, this one.
Yeah. I think that's the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is pretty
I think
cool.
that works, but it's more natural having it angled like that.
I think so.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So yeah, I think we're good.
It looks great. Yeah.
I reckon there's anything else. I mean, that's kind of how I always imagined the character.
No. I think we'll order him and wait for them to come in.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think it looks cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Okay, it's been 2 weeks and, well, look what's arrived in the post. Here we go. This is actually really exciting. I've never thought of having a character realised like this, completely custom made. So let's have a go and carefully open up the box. There we go. And then let's have a look inside here. So, first of all, lots of bubble wrap. And, oh, there we go. Looking away in the middle, there's a little bag made of bubble wrap. Oh, okay, so the print's on there. Right, let's have a look. And here he is, Quintus Maximilian in the flesh. Oh, the plastic, so to speak. But wow, this is quite an experience to have completely custom-made a miniature and then have it turn up. It's amazing. Now, I can see, looking closely, there's a few little lines from the print, just very, very faintly on there. Now, this is completely normal 3D printing. If you've ever had a go doing this, you'll know you get that kind of thing, but it's very, very faint. Honestly, the most that's going to disappear just with the undercoat. But it does need some cleaning, because there's a few little points from where it was printed. I can see they need to be cleaned away. So what I'm going to do now is use a craft knife to remove those, and some fine emery board as well, just to polish a few of the parts. And then I'm going to undercoat him with Mechanicus Standard Grey, and then we'll get painting. And here we have the model now cleaned up and undercoated with Mechanicus Standard Grey, and so, well, now it's time to start painting him. And it's a bit of a blank canvas at this point, and as anyone who's played Dungeons & Dragons will know, your characters become very personal and you have all sorts of stories and things that create all the gear that they're wearing. In the case of Quintus, as I said when we were making the character, the elven armour he's wearing is actually from a previous adventure and was a reward for saving a bunch of elves. So what I want to do is to create a really kind of opulent appearance for that armour, to make it look really shiny and things. And so for this, my go-to thought is to go to Lord of the Rings, in the Battle of the Last Alliance at the start of the first movie, when you see all those elves wearing gold and blue. So I'm going to start out with gold armour like that, but because it's from Wood Elves and he is part Ranger, I'm going to have some forest greens instead of blues. So it's going to be gold and green as the main two colours. So to start out with our armour, Retributor Armour is a perfect colour to use for it, so that's what I'm going to go with. To apply it, I've got a regiment brush here from the Army Painter, and with this colour, I'm just going to block in all of that armour for the first step. So it's just a matter of thinning down the paint as always, and then looking for those plate armour details. So in this case, I'm looking at things such as the helmet, the body armour, and also the knee pads as well. And there we are, the armour's been blocked out, and so now I'm going to move on to the other major colour in the miniature, which is going to be green. And I'm actually going to go for two different shades here, because first of all I want a really lush kind of emerald green for the robes, but on the inside of them I want them to be a darker green, so there's a nice bit of keying out between the two of them, and so the actual figure inside the robes really stands out too. And so for this I'm going to start out with the outer colour for the robes, and for this, like I say, I want an emerald green, so I'm going to start out with some Warpstone Glow. But this paint doesn't have that greater coverage, so what I'm going to do is mix it with some Caliban Green to make it a little bit darker, so a bit more emerald, and also give it some better coverage too. So to make the mix on the palette, it's just going to be both colours together, and so I'm going to start out with a little bit of Caliban Green. So there we go, and then a bit of Warpstone Glow. Now, Warpstone, as I said, it's quite a weak colour, so I'm actually going to be putting more of this in than we did with Caliban. So let's get some of that, and then a bit more, and then start mixing them together. So let's see what kind of tone we get. So there we go. That's the sort of colour that I want to have there. Perhaps just a little bit more Caliban. Yeah, there we go. That's the sort of tone I want to go for. So with that mixed up, what I'm going to do with this colour is paint the outer parts of the robes and also the crest on his helmet as well. And for this early stage, it's just a matter of blocking it in. So I'm looking at painting the back of his cloak on here, so all this part here, and you can see now the paint's got much better coverage than it would have if it was just Warpstone on its own. But also I'm going to be going for the crest, so this part up here, and also the outer part of the robes down here too. I've finished applying that green and I'm really happy with that shade on the outside there, but we still need to do the darker green on the inside. And for this, I'm just going to use some Caliban Green on its own. Now after that, it's time to base coat some leather details, and I'm going to go for 2 tones here. First of all, some Doombull Brown, which will give a really nice red leather, which will contrast really nicely against all that green, and then some Dryad Bark for all the remaining leather details. Finally, there's some trim on those green robes that I want to pick out with a lighter bone colour, and for this I'm going to start it out using some Zandri Dust. But first of all, it's going to be some Caliban Green, and once again I'm going to use that regiment brush to apply it, and this is going to be for the inside of all these robes that we've done green so far, for those 2 different tones for it. So what I'm looking at here is the inside of that cloak, and also the kind of skirt that we've got further down. So looking at painting in this sort of area around here. That done, I'm now going to move on to some Doombull Brown, and this is going to be scattered across the miniature to add a flash of a near red to it. That's not too strong, but just brightens up the miniature a little bit. And so with this, I'm going to go for the belt, going all the way around the waist. I'm also going to paint the boots this colour, so all the way down here, and there's also some bindings on the forearms just around here that I want to be this colour as well. Next, we're ready for some Dryad Bark, and this is going to be for the other leather details. So this is going to be things such as the gloves around about here, the trousers as well, any pouches at the belt, for example this one just here, and also the undershirt, which is visible just around at the elbows, just there. And finally, I'm going to add a small amount of Zandri Dust, so I've now switched to a smaller brush. This is a small layer here from Citadel. And first of all, it's going to be the pages of his journal, so just in there and in there. But also, you can see there's kind of a raised trim here on his tunic, so I want to pick this out too. So it's going to be all the way around here, and you can see it also appears on the sleeves, just up here, so I want that to be picked out too. Finally, using this colour, I'm going to be painting the actual grip of the sword around here. And there we are, most of the colours have now been base coated onto the model, and we're ready to apply the first wash to it. And you'll notice so far that all the colours that have been used are very much classic Ranger colours in the kind of Dungeons and Dragons fashion. This is on purpose because this character was kind of a merger of Ranger with Paladin, and the armour style is very much kind of like a Paladin, so it's exactly how I imagine the character being like this. And what I'm going to do is wash all these colours now with a brown wash to give a slight earthy tone to it to go along with that Ranger appearance. And so for this I'm going to use some Agrax Eartshade, which give a really nice finish to all the colours we've got there, and especially on that gold armour as well, giving it nice warmth. Now to apply it, I'm going to go for a really large brush. I've got a monster brush here from the Army Painter, and with this paint I'm just going to apply it all over him to shade everything in one go. And with this kind of thing I like to use a palette to help control how much is being put on there. It allows me to draw it from here, you see, and control how much I'm going to put on at once. But to begin with, I want quite a bit of this because this is going to go all over the miniature, so it settles in all those recessed details and brings out all the definition. There we are, the wash is dry and the detail's got lots of definition on it. And the model is a little bit murky now, but we are going to clean that up later on. But before we do, it's time to paint that sword now, and this is actually part of my character's background. This particular sword is a bastard sword, and in Dungeons and Dragons, when we were playing this game, to use a weapon like that, you had to go to some quite great lengths for it. You had to get a particular feat to be able to use it, and the one I had was like a really good sword, so it cost loads and loads of money. I went to quite an extent to get all the things together to be able to use this weapon. And the Games Master noticed this, and this is a bit of advice to any Games Masters out there for games that you're going to run. If your player starts to pursue something like this and it kind of fits into their character, sort of go with it and start to develop it more, which is what my Games Master did with this, because he started adding further traits to the sword to make it part of my character's development, which is something I really liked, and he could then sort of use it as like a lead to make me go in certain directions and stories and on quests and things. It really helps like bring the player into the character more. So anyway, with that out of the way, this sword is actually all silver, and so for this what I need to do is to base coat it with a silver colour, and I'm going to use some Iron Hand Steel for this. And then to wash it, this time I'm going to use some Nuln Oil, because a black wash over a silver sword like this will give it a much cleaner appearance than the brown wash we had on the rest of the miniature. So first Iron Hand Steel, and so to apply it I'm still going to use that regiment brush, and it's just a matter as ever just getting that paint ready on the palette with that touch of water, and then blocking the whole thing in. So I'm looking at painting the entire blade and also the hilt as well. With that base coat done, I'm now going to wash the sword using Nuln Oil, and this is going to be for just the metal on the sword. So we're looking at the metal parts on the hilt just here and the pommel, and also the blade, of course, as well. That wash is now completely dry, and so now I can move on to the next step, which is to painting the skin before we move on to neatening up these details. And for the skin, I'm just going to use 4 colours. First of all, I'm going to base coat it with some Bugman's Glow, and then wash with Reikland Fleshshade, before moving on to a layer of Cadian Fleshtone, and then finally a highlight of Kislev Flesh. So first of all, the base coat then, a Bugman's Glow. For this, I'm going to go to a smaller brush. I've now got a small layer brush here from Citadel. This is because the face is so well hidden away amongst that helmet, so I want lots of control here. And with the paint ready, it's just then a matter of picking those areas out. So we're looking at just carefully painting the skin that's visible through the visor here of the helmet, so really carefully around here, and then his neck around here as well. The next step is to wash the skin using some Reikland Fleshshade, again with that small layer brush, and this will give some definition to the skin as well as a warm tone. With that wash now dry, we're ready to move on to a layer of Cadian Fleshtone. With this colour, what I'm looking to do is to paint it onto the raised areas and the flatter details whilst avoiding those recesses. So for example on the face, you can see I'm starting by picking out the nose and that upper lip there, but keeping it darker in between the two to give some definition. Same as I move on to that lower lip and carrying on all the way down like this. And finally, I'm just going to add a very small amount of Kislev Flesh to highlight the skin. And with this colour, I'm just looking to pick out the sharpest features, so anything that stands out more than the rest. So for example, the nose, the upper lip just there, and then the chin as well. So areas like this, just to give a little bit more definition to the face. And with that, the skin is now complete. I'm going to move on to the next phase, which is going to be to neaten up some of the colours on the miniature and make them a little bit brighter. And I'm going to start out with that brighter green that we've got on the miniature. And to do this, I'm going to return to that original colour that we created, so that mix. So for this, it's some Warpstone Glow mixed with Caliban Green. So first of all, I just need to recreate that on the palette because, well, there's not really any of this left now. It's all very, very thin on there and not really enough to use for what I want. So I'm just going to make that mix again next to it. So starting out with Caliban Green, and then some Warpstone Glow. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same here because the colour we've got on the miniature now has darkened down quite a bit from where we originally started because of that wash earlier on. So if in doubt, I'm just going to add a bit more Warpstone Glow in than I think I need really. But actually getting that colour or something close to it, it's pretty easy, you see. It's going to be kind of that sort of tone just there. Now to apply it this time, what I'm looking to do is to have a bit more control on it. So I'm just going to use the palette to help make sure I don't have loads of paint on the brush. And with this, what I'm looking to do now is to paint it onto these lighter green areas, but avoiding the deeper recesses. So for example, on the cloak, you can see we've got all the folds in there where a lot of that wash settled. What I'm going to do is just avoid those deeper areas and instead apply this more towards the middle of each of these folds on the raised up areas. So around there, for example, like that. And you can see by doing this, I retain that definition and I start to get a highlight building up. And what I'm going to do is just carry on doing this on a number of these areas like that. You can see it dries pretty quickly, but actually what I'm going to do, once it's dried a bit, so kind of to the point here, that previous one that I did just there, what I'm now going to do is actually just mix in a little bit more Warpstone Glow, so it's closer just to pure Warpstone there on my palette. And using this, I'm just going to apply that slightly closer towards the middle. So this way I'm just increasing that definition and making it appear like it's standing out a little bit more. I finished that layering there and now I'm really happy with that green that we got on the cloak, and now it's time to do the same thing on the metallics. So for this, what we need to do is return to Retributor Armour followed by Iron Hand Steel. Now the application is going to be very similar for this, but because the gold armour is a bit smaller, I'm going to go for a small layer brush right from the start here. And with this, I'm just looking to get some of this nicely thinned down as ever on the palette. And then when applying it, it's a matter of painting it onto the flatter surfaces on that gold armour. So I'm looking for those recesses and I just want to avoid them. So for example, on the breastplate just here, I'm just going to be applying it to flat areas such as just here, but not going quite into the corners where it meets with the detail. So I'll retain that definition from the shading earlier on. I finished that layering now, and you can see with that we've got a much nicer finish, more appropriate to elven armour, and now we need to do the same thing on the sword. So it's back to Iron Hand Steel for this, and once again I'm going to apply a thin layer of this onto the flatter areas whilst avoiding those recessed details. And with that, the layering is now all complete, and you can see, especially on those metallics, we've got a really nice shiny finish. And so now I can move on to highlighting the miniature. And for this, I want to get a really nice clean finish on those metallics first of all, so I'm going to start with that. So for the gold, I need some Liberator Gold, and then for the silver, I'm going to use some Stormhost Silver, and I'm also going to bring this a little bit onto the gold details to give a really sharp finish to it. But first of all, I need Liberator Gold, and to apply it, I'm going to be back to that small layer brush. And with this, what I'm looking to do is to pick out all the sharper edges with just a little bit of this colour, so corners, things like that. And so to help out with that, what you need is lots of control over the paint, and so on your palette, just thin it down to the point where it flows very easily from your brush. So just use the palette just to test it by just bringing a bit more water in there like that. And once it's kind of this sort of consistency, just get rid of the excess off your brush and then Let's give it a little test on the palette. You can see it's flowing very easily from the bristles there, even though it doesn't appear there's that much on the brush, which means I'm going to get lots of control over it and get that accuracy, which is so important with this highlighting. And with this, what I'm looking to do is to, well, pick out all those edges. So for example, on the helmet, looking for areas such as around this part around the face just there. So all I'm going to do is use the side of my brush, just very gently skim along them like that, so I get that lighter gold catching that edge, to give me a nice highlight really quickly and easily. And with that highlight applied to the gold, we're now going to move on to highlighting the silver using Stormhost Silver. Now the obvious example here is the sword, of course, which I'm going to be highlighting the same way, using the side of my brush and just gently skimming along those edges, such as these ones just here, to pick them out there like that. But there's also some extra details I want to pick out with the silver. First of all, I'm going to add a very fine highlight to the gold to give it a real sense of sharpness for the light reflecting off it. And this is going to be on all the very sharpest points. So for example, the top of the helmet just there, and the tops of the knees just there. So these kind of points that are going towards the top of the armoured suit. Now finally, there's one of the little detail I want to pick out, and these are actually scattered across the miniature. These are really small buckles and things. For example, on the boots, there's some just around here. I'm just going to very gently pick them out with silver too. And with that, all those metallic details are now done, and it's time to move on to highlighting those remaining colours on the miniature. And for this, I want 4 paints. First of all, I'm going to use some Warpstone Green to highlight all the lighter green details, such as on the cloak. And then after that, I'm going to move on to the leather. And for this, I'm going to use some Tuskgor Fur, followed by some Gorthor Brown. Finally, I'm going to use a little bit of Ushabti Bone, and this is for that trim that was on the robes. But first of all, it's Warpstone Green that I need, and for this I'm going to be applying it again using that small layer brush. And this is just going to be a final highlight on that green fabric on the back. So we're looking at the lighter fabric really, so also kind of on that almost skirt-like bit that we've got. And with this, it's just a matter of getting a small amount of this colour, just like with that metallic earlier on, only this time rather than applying it using the side of the brush, what I'm going to look for is atop these creases, and using the tip of the brush, just going to gently pick them out. So notice I'm angling the model so I'm nice and comfortable, nice and braced, and I'm going to be painting downwards towards myself, and using this, it's possible just to get a nice highlight on the tops of those areas there, like that. And with that, that light green fabric is now complete. Now it's time to move on to highlighting the leather. And for this, I'm going to use some Tuskgor Fur, and this is for that warm leather. All I'm going to do is look for the edges and just gently run across them. I've finished highlighting that colour now, which I think is giving a nice contrast against all of that green. And so now it's time to move on to highlighting the dark leather. And for this, I'm going to use some Gorthor Brown. This is for things like the little pouch around here. And finally, I'm going to use a small amount of Ushabti Bone to highlight the trim of his clothing first of all, for example around the sleeve just here, but also I'm going to use it to highlight the pages of his journal. And with that, Quintus is now fully highlighted, and well, I'm ready to move on to painting his base. And for this one, I went for that kind of flagstone texture on there, which is of course perfect for dungeon crawling. So for this, what I want to do is to paint it in kind of like a dark, dank sort of stone colour. And so the first step for doing this is going to be to neaten it up using some Mechanicus standard grey. So I'm going to apply that then using my regiment brush, and with this, all I'm looking to do is to block in all that texture on the base. So it's just a matter of getting some of this ready on the palette as usual. So there we go, and then painting all this texture. And as I was doing this, I'm just going to be really careful whenever I get close to the feet, just very gently manipulating the bristles up close to them there like that, being careful not to quite go onto them. With that base colour now neatened up, I'm going to move on to the next step, which will be to stain that stone with some colour. And for this, I want a kind of natural, slightly damp feel to it. So what I'm going to use is some Agrax Eartshade, but also some Athonian Camoshade. And I'm going to allow the two colours to mix freely on there, which is going to give a sort of mossy appearance to it. So for this, first of all, I'm going to start out with some Agrax Eartshade, and I'm using my regiment brush again to apply this, and I'm going to use a palette to help control it. To get some ready there, and it's just a matter of then painting it on, just picking a starting point, so there for example, and then just painting it on like this, letting it settle into that texture. Now as I'm doing this at random intervals, I'm just going to switch colour, so off to Athonian Camoshade, not even wash my brush for this, I'm just going to apply some of that and let the two colours mix there on the stone, and you can see this way I get that natural organic feel to it. The wash is now completely dry, so now we're ready to move on to highlighting all that texture, and for texture like this, dry brushing is the perfect technique to use, and I'm going to use two colours for it. First of all, some Administratum Grey, and then to finish off with a slight dusty feel, I'm going to use some Screaming Skull as well. But first I want some Administratum Grey, and so I'm going to be applying it using a hobby dry brush here from the Army Painter. And the texture's quite fine on here, so I really want to make sure I've got only a very, very small amount of paint here. It's very easy to overdo it and lose the colour that we've got there so far, you see. So I just want to really make sure that there's hardly anything left on this brush before applying it. And there we go, it looks pretty good. See, I'm just testing on the texture of the tissue there to see what kind of result it's going to be. And so with that done, it's now just a matter of applying it to that texture, being careful of the feet as I go, just lightly applying it like this to slowly build up the colour. There we are, like that. And finally, I'm just going to complete the stone with a very light dry brush of Screaming Skull. So once again, very, very gently apply it just like that to really finish it off. And now with this done, all I've got to do is to paint the rim of the base. And for Quintus, I'm going to go for a matte black for that. And with that, well, the model is complete. And here we have the completed Quintus Maximilian, ready to join the rest of his adventuring party known as Morrigan's Missions and go on an adventure in a dungeon searching for treasure. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video because it was quite an unusual one for us and a really fun experience too, especially for me I guess, because Quintus has been a character I've been playing in Dungeons & Dragons for, well, a long, long time really, well over 10 years. So to actually see the model come to life in the way I imagined and then placing the colours on in the way I always envisioned them to be, it's just been a really exciting experience to do. And we hope you enjoyed the adventure with us and, well, perhaps it inspired you to have a go as well. And we'll see you all again very soon.